Hello everyone. In the previous video, we looked at how we can make a query language request using both the SAP CAP and also the Cloud SDK. I also mentioned that using the SAP CAP query language is recommended. But the reason I showed you how you can do it using the Cloud SDK is because there are some times when you may have to use the Cloud SDK way of querying the backend, the remote API. And one of the reason is when you're doing batch processing. So let me quickly talk a little bit about batch processing. What batch processing allows you to do is it allows you to make a single HTTP request and you can group multiple operations into that single HTTP request. And the request payload is in the form of a string, and it is submitted as a single HTTP post request, and the endpoint is the $batch endpoint. So the request of the batch itself, the request body itself, can have get operations, and in addition to get operations, it can have change sets as well. We already know what a get operation is. It's just a get and some entity set. But what is a change set? So a change set is an unordered group of cut operations. So it cannot have a get operation inside the change set, but the change set can have multiple update operations or create operations or combination of create, update, delete operations within the change set. So an example of a batch request body can look like this. So it can have a get request, then it can have a change set request, and we already know that within a change set you cannot have a get request, but it can have either an insert or an update. So in this case, this change set has both an insert and an update, and then there's another change set B that has an insert and an update, and then a get request again. Now the thing with the batch request is it is all or nothing in the change set. So if a change set, if one operation fails, then the whole change set will fail. So that's one of the advantage of batch operation is you can do some transactions by putting all these operations within a change set. So if I go to the like a batch request, so this is how it would look like. In your body you would send this payload. So here in this payload I have a get request, I have another get request, and I have a get request. But typically what you would have is you would have a change set where you have multiple cut operations as part of a change set. Okay, so the SAP CAP, that query language does not support the batch operations. So for us now we have to use the Cloud SDK in order to submit the batch request. So let's see how we can do this. So I'm already in the next branch, which is batch 7, and let me go ahead and run this in hybrid mode. So CDS watch -- profile hybrid. Now the hybrid approach, this profile, what it allows you to do is it allows you to use some services of SAP BTP while still running locally. So I'm still running the application locally, but I have the destination service bound to my application. So even though I'm running locally, I'm still using the destination service from SAP BTP. So here now I have a batch operation. So I've added a batch operation function import. So the implementation is right here. So I have a read operation, and you can see that I'm using the read operation, the query language from the Cloud SDK. So there is the read operation, but I don't have the await keyword. So all this is doing is it's going to create that query for me. So it's not going to execute it yet because we haven't called execute also. And then I have another read operation right here. Again, this is just going to create the query for me, but not executed yet. And then I have a create operation as well. Again, this is just creating the query, but it has not executed it yet. Now I want to go ahead and run all these 3 operations as part of a batch. So the get operations, I can submit them as get operations, and then there's only one create, and I can put that inside of a change set. And this is how I would do it. I would say await batch, and then within the change set, I'm adding this create operation. I can have multiple create operations or multiple, like a combination of create and update and so on within this change set. And then I have these read operations as separate operations, these get operations right here. And then I have the execute, and I'm executing it directly against this destination name. And that's why I'm running this in hybrid mode, because then I can retrieve the destination information and so on. So I've also put a breakpoint just to see how the request is being sent to the backend. So if I go ahead and send the request, let me go ahead and send the request. So if I send the request here, it should hit my breakpoint right here. And if I look at my request, this is the request that is being sent to the backend. So if I go here and look at the request, the request has the config property, and then in this config property, let me go ahead and get the payload that's being sent. So the payload looks something like this, and this is what we were expecting also. So here I should have the post, which is part of a change set. You can see there is a change set and there is the post, and then I have a get, and then I have another get. So this is my payload that is being sent to the backend. And this should also have let me see what else is there in the config. It says it's the post request, which is correct. And then it has the default base path, and everything is right there. And it's able to go ahead and talk to the destination, retrieve the destination information, and then it's able to run this query for me. And then if I look at the partners itself, and then in my response, I get 3 responses back. You can see 0, 1, 2, because I've sent three requests, and you can go ahead and parse this and then submit it to the backend, to the end user, like the success or the failure. So if I let it run, it's just going to say okay. But what you would typically do is you would look at the response, and then you would parse the response, because now there are 3 responses that comes back, and then you would display that to the user. Okay, so this is one huge advantage of using the Cloud SDK is whenever you want to do some batch operations to a remote service, then you can make use of the SAP Cloud SDK. Okay, thank you.